Hey, good morning, everybody, out for the morning stroll. It's a little chilly, yeah, but I'm dressed for the occasion. And, oh my God, you are not gonna believe what happened overnight in the Brooks case. Yeah, shocking. Really, really interesting. Stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Crafting and Crime Daily, another episode. And I apologize, there was no actual episode yesterday, but we spent quite a bit of time in the courtroom with Darrell Brooks. We were anticipating the closing arguments, some of the reading of the jury instructions. So all that is in part one and part two of what happened yesterday. So you'll get to see that in full. Let me tell you a little bit about what happened after I stopped the stream yesterday. Because, I was hungry, of course. So I sat down for dinner, and about 6:30-ish, I would say, she stopped. She finally got through reading of the entire verdict form, all the jury instructions and verdict form, which in the totality were 107 pages. Yeah. So she finally finished that, and to my surprise, she sent the jury out to deliberate, to begin their deliberations. She said they had ordered dinner. Now, my suspicion is that they had polled the jury and said, do you want to start deliberating tonight? And she must have, at some point, off camera, told them they had to bring an overnight bag. It may have been that the judicial assistant called the jurors and said, you need to bring an overnight bag with you. But anyway, they were prepared yesterday to begin their deliberations and be sequestered. So those deliberations, which means everyone had to hang around the courtroom, including the defendant, who, I know it's not funny, but it's funny. He requested, can I go back to my cell? He says, I know this sounds strange, but it's shower night, and I only get to shower twice a week. And she says, you know what? I understand. I will make sure that, you're here in the holding area. I will make sure that they allow you to get a shower here, because she didn't want him to go back to his cell because there was too much. He wanted to be present if the jury had any questions or requests for evidence, which they did. And they did it in a really interesting way. Several of their requests came through. The first request was for the map, which was Exhibit 15. Everybody's familiar with the map of the parade route and who was injured and where all the barriers were and the cops, and everything is on this map. It's a pretty important exhibit. So that was allowed to go back with the jury. They also asked to see different areas of footage of the parade, and then at one point they asked to see video from the initial domestic violence event between Darrell and his ex-girlfriend. So there's a television in the jury room. So the judge, instead of bringing the jury back into the courtroom and showing the 15 seconds of video, she was able to broadcast it on their TV. So she could watch what they were watching. Everybody could watch what they were watching. Well, not the public. The parties could watch what the jury was watching. But what she would do is she would call and she'd say, are you guys ready? I'm going to play it now. And the jurors, I guess, said yes, they're ready. And she would play it. And they didn't have to leave the room where they were at. I thought this was very unique. Things are getting so modern. So that happened, and then about 8:30-ish, she got a message from the jury that they were done for the evening. They wanted to go to their hotel. So they gathered up the alternates. They brought them back into the courtroom. She gave them instructions that they were not to deliberate unless they were in that jury room. So they could go back to their hotel, but they could not hold any further deliberations. Now, here's what happened overnight. And I'm watching here to see if we get a verdict. The camera's just on the flag, and that little, I think that's a camera right next to the flag. Not sure what that is. Anyway, so there's nothing really going on here, but I wanted to read to you what happened last night because I want to be accurate about it. When she came, after she finished reading everything, and she said, I'm going to take a break, but I need to come back and make a record of something that was brought to my attention earlier today. I'm thinking, and you're just now bringing it to our attention? Okay. So she returned to the court and discussed her concerns about the integrity of the proceedings. The judge's clerk had received an email, and apparently so had the prosecution. The prosecution had also received this same email at her office. She personally had not gotten it, but it had been sent to her office, and apparently it had been sent to quite a number of people. This email came from Germany, but yeah, the email reads, I've just found a Reddit in the subreddit, and it's called Justice for Daryl. Now, I'm not an expert on Reddit, not by any means. In a subreddit called Justice for Daryl, titled, I am a member of the jury on this case. Here are my thoughts on the trial and on this subreddit. I am unsure if you are allowed to visit this link, but I will, now this is the emailer talking again. I am unsure if you're allowed to visit this link, but I will include the link to the post and also a screenshot. I cannot for sure tell whether this post is from an actual member of the jury or not, since the subreddit is generally against Judge Darrow's actions, no matter what she does. But just to be sure, I wanted to report this matter. So, interesting. I don't know what the paragraph said. Let me fast forward here to see if they included the paragraph. Did they include the paragraph? Hold on, maybe I do know what it says. Oh, yeah, here. So to start with, I shouldn't be here, but I'm allowed to... Oh my gosh. I am a member of the jury on this case. Here are my thoughts on the trial and on the subreddit. So to start with, I obviously shouldn't be here. I'm not allowed to look stuff up about this trial or really have any connection with the internet, but nobody actually follows sequestration rules anyway. Hence, I'm obviously posting angry... I'm obviously posting anonymously. It's fuzzy. It's hard to read. I accidentally wandered also here a few days ago from the defendant's thread on my main Reddit account. Here is my opinion on the trial. First off, I think it's pretty obvious due to chain of custody that the defendant is, in fact, Mr. Brooks, and he did... I can't make out that word. However, I've had... throughout this trial, doubts about various aspects of this case. Number one, the judge is clearly biased against Mr. Brooks. I got this feeling from when we were in the room, and my eyes have been open to how she acted towards him when the jury was out of the room. Clearly, she is not an impartial judge and has been trying to belittle, demean bully and pull procedural tricks on him fairly frequently. I had my doubts already, but the subreddit has something me to clarify. I don't know. Number 2, Mr. Brooks has clearly not been given the chance to plead his case in court. He has been silenced and mocked at almost every turn. He may be a bit loud or crass at times. I still believe his side deserves to be heard. Number 3, I do have significant doubts about subject matter jurisdiction. I didn't understand it when discussed in court because the defendant was repeatedly silenced, but I do understand now thanks to this sub, and I agree that subject matter jurisdiction is a great concern here. Number 4, this subreddit has made me aware of the jury nullification, and I am very grateful for that. Overall, I'm not sure what I will decide. I'm not educated in law, and I have to admit I'm biased against the defendant for the horrible acts he did. However, it is also clear that the trial is a complete kangaroo court. Mr. Brooks has not been allowed to try and prove his innocence, subject matter jurisdiction, or explain the occurrences surrounding the events. It's hard to imagine what could justify it, but we can't know because of this truth. For these reasons, I'm torn between locking him up and throwing away the key or jury nullification. Both have agreements for and against them, and I'm not looking forward to choosing. I'm mostly writing this to help myself process my thoughts on this, but please let me know what you think. So this was not read in open court. She handed this paragraph to Darrell Brooks so that he could read through it. It was not read to the public. It's just now been put on the internet. So what I'm understanding is the judge says that she turned this over to law enforcement to investigate, and that she was going to continue to allow the jurors to deliberate and let law enforcement do their investigation. And that is the way it was left yesterday evening. When court resumed this morning, she said that the person who made this post came back and said that it was a hoax. And their thought was that if it was a juror, their thought was that it couldn't be a juror because the only person that can edit this post is the person that posted it, and they had no electronics with them. All their cell phones have been taken away. So for that reasoning, they believe that it's not actually a juror, that it is truly a hoax. And Reddit took this post down, but it is still being investigated by law enforcement. Now, Darrell Brooks did a motion to dismiss, and rightfully so, which was denied. So, I don't agree with anything that this says. I don't believe that it's been a kangaroo court. I think this judge has been unbelievably patient with Darrell Brooks. So let me put the YouTube back on so I make sure I don't miss the verdict. Okay, verdict is in to be read at 11:45 Eastern Time. Okay, so I will go live at 11:45 for the reading of the verdict. And this will be interesting. Today he is wearing his orange jumpsuit. Yeah. So let me just bring you up to speed. That's all Darrell Brooks. And it was an interesting day yesterday. I hope you get to go back and see some of his closing arguments because it was interesting, tugging on the heartstrings of the jurors. So let's talk a little bit about the Wagner case. The George Wagner IV is on trial for the murders of the 8 members of the Rodin family. Now, George's brother Jake took the stand. He is incarcerated. He has pled guilty. He changed his plea to guilty in exchange for 8 life sentences. They took the death penalty off the table if in exchange for him to testify in his brother and his father. My God, my ear itches all of a sudden. In his brother and his father's trial. But Jake took the judge's option not to be filmed. The judge has given each witness the option of being filmed, and Jake said, no, don't want to be filmed. So all of the information I'm getting came from a reporter who was inside of the courtroom, and this reporter describes that Jake showed no emotion whatsoever when testifying against his brother. He has not seen his brother. These two have not seen each other since their initial arrest 4 years ago. This is the first time they've seen each other. He looked right at George. George would not look at his brother. The reporter stated that the jury was very attentive to this testimony, but that Jake was not showing any emotion. He was just very matter of fact as he describes all of these murders. Very, very disturbing. He gives a lot of background about the family, how he and his brother were homeschooled. They did about a year of technical college, that they would have these family meetings at the kitchen table that mostly involved the workings of the farm. But if it ever involved Jake or George, they would have the last say. Whoever the person was that the discussions involved would have the last say about how it was going to be handled. I'm reading through my notes. So he talked about their criminal enterprises. He said that they would steal fuel by setting up a tank of some sort, and they would steal fence supplies, tools, lumber, building supplies, livestock. But they only would steal these from big businesses who were insured for the losses. So they felt like they really weren't hurting anybody by stealing this stuff because they could just file an insurance claim and everybody would be made whole. So he said they did do everything as a family, and they used each other's bank accounts. He said he had an account with his brother. He denied having an account with Angela. He did say that he had instructed his mother, Angela, to go and buy these ugly sneakers because mostly they wore boots and recognizable sort of shoes. So he just wanted her to buy these ugly sneakers. He began dating. He met Hannah at the age of 13 when he was 17. At the county fair. She was at a 4-H exhibit, and he just tried to get her attention. And so after that, they started hanging out. They would go fishing, but there was always someone with them. And then he finally asked permission to start dating Hannah. They would go to festivals. They would go four-wheeling, but there was always someone with them. Until she got pregnant at 16 and had Sophia. Oh, someone is asking me a question. Let me answer tomorrow at 1. Okay. Let me go back to the. Well, we know that the verdict's going to be read 11:45. So she gets pregnant at 16. They he talks about their, having committed arson, both at their Bethel Hill home. They burned a truck. They did all this, exchange for insurance money. He did admit to choking Hannah. Well, he said he wasn't choking her, but he showed how he held her in place against a wall for 5 minutes. Looked like a choke to me. But because she wouldn't cut the grass. That was one of her chores when she lived at their house, was she had to cut the grass, and on a particular day she didn't feel like cutting the grass, so he had to do it. So he got angry. Oh my God, so silly. Anyway, in February of 2015, she breaks up with him. She starts dating one of the Gilly boys. She gets pregnant with the Gilly person and eventually breaks up with him and starts dating another guy. And Sophia said that she would be locked in her room for hours. This is what she would come home after visiting with her mom. She would tell her dad that he locked me in a room for hours. There was a history of sexual abuse in Hannah's family, so Jake was very worried that Sophia would suffer this as well. So Hannah also chose to date men that used drugs. So Jake was very concerned, and he discussed his concerns with Hannah Mae, and she just dismissed him. Now, he was concerned that either Sophia had already been molested. He said she was very frightened about every time she would make a big scene about going over to visit her mother, holding on to his leg and crying. She didn't want to go. So he was concerned that she may have already been molested, or he was in fear that she would be molested. He just felt like Hannah wasn't taking his concerns seriously. So Billy suggested, hey, let's kill her. But Billy said, but we'll have to kill the whole family. They first discussed that they would do it as like a murder-suicide type thing, like with Hannah's current boyfriend killing Hannah, and then Hannah, murder. But Billy said, no, we'll have to kill the whole family. If we don't kill the whole family, Chris Sr. is going to come after you like a sniper on a hill. Billy chose the date. He said, I'll choose the date. Jake's job was to get the firearms, assemble the silencers. His attempts to make homemade silencers out of flashlights just did not work, so they ended up using oil filters. I don't understand all that technical stuff. He said George was present when they bought the truck specifically to carry out these murders, and that the sale took place in the driveway. He believed they paid like $1,500 to $2,000 for this GMC that they got from Uncle Todd. And it was Billy's idea to modify this truck to put in a piece of plywood that George and Jake could hide under, and they could put hay on top and disguise that, they weren't really there. This was very meticulously planned out. They had a signal jammer to prevent the rodents from calling 911. Jake admitted that he was the person that bought the bug detector. Remember, it was bought on George's card, but he said, no, I'm the one that purchased it. And Jake admitted to the fraudulent, helping Angela commit the fraud with the custody papers, because he thought if something goes wrong, he wanted to make sure they got custody of Hannah. And he admitted also that he and George dyed their hair, to look like that guy on The Walking Dead. So George wore ski masks, dark clothes. They both wore those ugly Walmart shoes. And it was the intent that George did have the intent to go with them and assist in committing these murders. Now, he then proceeds to walk the jury through every step of the murders, and I wrote it all down, but it's very gruesome. But at the point where they are at Chris Sr.'s home, they realize Gary's there as well. Chris goes into the house. I'm sorry. Billy goes in. He's friends with Chris. He goes into the house to speak with Chris. They come out together. Well, while they're in the house, George and Jake get out of they're hidden in the back of the truck. They get out of the truck and they're hiding under the truck. And they're supposed to shoot Chris when he comes out with Billy. So he comes out. George has an SKS rifle, but he freezes. He can't do it. So they go back into the house. When he goes back into this, it's not really a house, it's a trailer, Jake starts firing his weapon, multiple rounds of this weapon, and which accounts for the 8 times that Chris is hit in the head. And I think Gary was hit 3 times. So then Billy dragged them into a bed to make it look like they were asleep, that they were shot while they were sleeping. So I don't really want to go through the rest. It was very gruesome, but at no time does he describe that George committed any of these murders. Although he just participated, he kept going with them from house to house, and yeah. So there is more of the testimony that I have not heard. That was the one day that he testified. I don't know what there was continued yesterday, so I'm gonna I haven't heard what the cross-examination was, but when I get the details of that, I will bring that to you in tomorrow's episode. How we doing on time? We are good. Oh my gosh. So how am I doing? I'm doing fine. Sales are being made in the store. I am going to be putting this up for sale. I made this yesterday while watching the trial. And it's just a little winter hat. It's a 5-weight. This is a Bernay 5-weight. Beautiful yarn, beautiful colors. It's just this. You can fold it up as high as you want, So it's a large adult hat. So this will go up in the store today. I'm going to list it for $30 plus shipping. So if you're interested in purchasing that, look for this in the store this evening. You'll be able to purchase that. I'm also going to be listing the sweater. This will be for a small dog or small cat. That will be listed as well this evening. So, yay! And I'll probably I'm going to try to crochet a couple of things a week so that I can put them into the store just to see if they sell. So, guys, thanks for watching today. I want to make sure everybody knows that 11:45 is the time for the reading of the verdict. It's going to be interesting. I want to get this show up so you guys can hear what went on yesterday after we got done watching. 11:45 in 37 minutes. 37 minutes. What is she talking about? 11:45 Eastern time, so it's 10:45 my time. Okay. I wonder what she was talking about. So I'll probably go live now. All right. I will see you in tomorrow's episode of Crafting and Crime Daily. Take care, everybody.